Welcome to the Valhalla Filmcast, a show where normal guys talk about the films that they love. And here are your hosts, Bryce Thompson, Brian Hammond, and Cody Ryrie. Now get ready, because the show starts in 3, 2, 1.
Welcome to the Valhalla Filmcast. I'm Cody Ryrie, here with Brian Hammond.
Hello.
And we are on our way back from Los Angeles reviewing all the films that we had the pleasure of seeing on our trip to Hollywood and that area. You want to see more about our trip, please go to Facebook, search us, like us, share us. Thank you very much. Now, on to the next movie in our review series. We are talking about John Carpenter's Halloween, the original. This is a movie I had not seen before we went on the trip. Brian had seen it, and we're going to talk about it. There will be probably some at least minor spoilers in this, if not major ones. So do yourself a favor. Go see it. We're recommending it. That goes without saying. But we want to get more into it. This stars Donald Pleasance, Jamie Lee Curtis in her film debut. And like I said, it was directed by John Carpenter, his third film, and the one that really broke him out into a name that was associated with horror in general. Now, it's a story of, if you haven't seen it or you need a refresher, it's a story of Michael Myers, who becomes this, he kills his sister when he's like 6 or 5, and then he gets put in an asylum for years, breaks out of the asylum, dons a mask, which is now iconic, and then goes on a killing spree in this small town of Haddonfield, Illinois. And that's basically the plot. It's a very lean movie. It's not so much about plot as it is about moments, and not even really about character, but it's about filmmaking in general. It's what I took from it, and creating a really good atmosphere of horror. Now, on this viewing, what were your takeaways, Brian?
It was awesome, like always. No, as we were kind of prepping for the show, we learned some interesting facts, and I guess Jamie Lee Curtis, that's the daughter of the star from Psycho, which was really
Janet Leigh, yeah,
which was really interesting. This film is kind of like the first American slasher film out there. It's kind of the bridge between the Italian giallo genre and kind of scaled down, Americanized, a little more gore and a lot more tension buildup of stalking. And so this is really the original. This is the film that cast the mold for the American slasher film. And so, what's to say about it? It was great. This gave me nightmares as a kid. I still remember waking up, scared of someone, just this ever omniscient, omnipresent stalker just following me, and it really gave me some nightmares, and that was watching the TV edits of that, and so which we found out a nice little tidbit about that, Cody.
Yeah, when the television version was made, they wanted it to fit in a certain time slot, apparently, and so during the production of the sequel of Halloween 2, John Carpenter shot additional scenes apparently that he had very mixed feelings about that go into the film. Now, if you watch the film on Blu-ray, the scenes are included, but not as a part of the film. You'll be watching the film from 1979 if you choose the feature. Standouts for me, I want to say Brian really went over the legacy of Halloween. As a person who had not seen it before this and who had seen some of its progeny, I was surprised to see where those things came from. It's such a copied film, from everything to, the Friday the 13th films to Nightmare on Elm Street. They're all kind of variations of it. Cabin in the Woods was kind of a response to it. And much up into It Follows, this last couple years ago, is in a lot of ways an homage to it and a changing of some of those themes or an explanation of them, or I don't know exactly how to describe it, but definitely some progeny.
Which I would argue is probably the best follow-up to Halloween. It almost feels like a companion piece to it to me. The normal slasher moments aren't there, but as far as the music and the build-up and the camera work, it's very similar. There's a nice shout-out to Halloween in that. So, but we're talking about Halloween.
Well, and originally, we found this out too, I think Brian told me this, that John Carpenter did not want to do a direct sequel to Halloween. He wanted to do an anthology series under the Halloween label. And so every film would take place at Halloween, but something different would happen. We saw that with Halloween 3, Season of the Witch. And if you consider that, then another film we're going to review, The Fog, would fit into that category, except it didn't place. You could make it take place on Halloween. Wouldn't hurt. Well, anyway. And It Follows would be a great Halloween anthology movie as well if you were going to do that. So in spirit, you've got a lot of movies that follow it, some better than others. Standouts of the film itself, I really like the camera work. The camera work in this, early work of the Steadicam, this and The Shining are the first two movies. Interesting that they're horror films both. I wonder what it is about the prowling, smooth camera that is off-putting or puts you ill at ease. I don't know, an interesting thought we could go into later, but camera work is brilliant, especially for such a low-budget film. The whole thing costs around $300,000. Also, the other thing that makes the movie, and this could be said of Jaws as well, is the music. The music makes this film what it is. If you haven't heard that, go look it up on YouTube. It's a really quick look-up. Fantastic. Written by John Carpenter himself. So he's one of the few director-composers. I guess Clint Eastwood's the only one I could think of. And this score is brilliant, and it was written in 3 days, which is mind-boggling. But it's one of those things, it's very similar to Jaws in that it's simple, and yet it's so insanely perfect for what it's matching that it elevates the whole thing to something it would not be without the score. And you told me a story, and we looked this up, and apparently it's true, about the actual Michael Myers mask that I did not know. The origins behind that.
Yeah, so this film was done on such a shoestring budget. John Carpenter, he had 2 films in his pocket. What was the first one, Cody?
Dark Star.
Dark Star, and the follow-up to that was Assault on Precinct 13. And so, this is actually the only reason he was able to film that is based on his work on that. They wanted a scary movie, and so the budget was very small on that. Is filmed very quickly, and so the actual mask they were trying to save on money, and they went to the local costume store and picked up a William Shatner mask from Star Trek, and they razzed up the hair, whatever you call it,
yeah.
and pulled out the eyebrows, painted it fish belly white. Cut out the eyes to make them bigger and more gaping, and just and so it's a William Shatner mask, which is kind of a cool little fact.
So it's true that William Shatner is responsible for everything good in the world. I think he would agree with that if you asked him. So
Star Trek: The Motion Picture, right?
Yeah, we're not going there. Anyway, so with Halloween, we definitely recommend the film. For me, I've always been put off by slasher films. That's why I haven't seen a lot of them, because I felt like they were inherently misogynistic and sadistic, and there wasn't a lot of value to be had there. That does not apply, in my opinion, at all to Halloween. Halloween is, it's been called a work of pure cinema along with Psycho, and I would agree with that. It's a story that could only be told in the film medium. There's nothing inherently misogynistic about it. In fact, it's a woman who finds her inner strength and courage who ends up, basically stopping the monster.
Yeah, we made we brought this point up as we were watching, is that the normal tropes that these teens fall into, yeah, she did some of that. When he's down, you just keep stabbing. But she was really creative and inventive in some of the ways to fight back, and she didn't just run. She did fight back on multiple occasions, and that is different than, the predecessors, or not the predecessors, the movies that would follow and copy that. So, yeah, interesting.
My last thought, I want to single out Donald Pleasance, an actor of some quality. I mean, he's great in The Great Escape and other things, and I'm glad that he agreed to do this low-budget horror film, because he adds a lot of weight to it. He's almost the Alec Guinness, the Obi-Wan Kenobi of this movie, because, Alec Guinness adds a lot of weight to this silly science fiction, quote-unquote, film, and Donald Pleasance brings that same kind of authority to his performance in Halloween. We learned it was a role that was offered to Christopher Lee and Peter Cushing. They both turned it down. I couldn't imagine anybody better than Donald Pleasance playing the role. So a classic that holds up still today. We both enjoyed it a lot, and it's interesting to see the things it gets right that the movies that copied it got wrong. So yeah, any final thoughts?
Just that it's a great movie with very little gore, which the following movies would go heavy on, but it's done in such a way, and part of that could be because the financial constraints. They didn't have a lot of money for the gore and all that thing, but it was just great for what it did. Haunted you, those images of him just standing in the sheets or just around the corner out of view still haunt me to this day, and from a kid, and it's just a great film. If you haven't seen it, do yourself a favor, get out there, watch it. You can get it for cheap, rent it, whatever. See it now.
A great movie for this time of year as well, and it's it's further justification of the adage that the absence of limitations is the enemy of art. Those limitations can make things better. So yeah, this is Cody Ryrie.
This is Brian Hammond.
And we are signing off here at the Valhalla Filmcast. We'll talk to you next time.
The following views, opinions, and commentary are the sole property of the Valhalla Filmcast. Any unauthorized reproduction without prior consent is prohibited. Any incidental music, audio clips, or film trailers are used for the sole purpose of film criticism and commentary as allowed under the Fair Use Act.